Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of College Inside Out. I'm your host, Pooja Daryanani, and today I am super excited to welcome Taylor Miles from the Thunderbird School of Global Management at Arizona State University. Welcome, Taylor. We're super thrilled to have you here today.
Thank you so much. Super excited to be here and happy to have the opportunity.
Fantastic. So there's just so much. I have so many questions for you, and there's so much I want to cover. But I thought we would start big picture first, right?
hmm
I know that Thunderbird prides itself on being the world's first multinational business school. Can you touch
hmm
upon that a little bit and explain to our students and families, what this really means? If you can unpack that a bit, that would be great.
Yeah, of course. I love that question. And we love our history here at Thunderbird, and that's what's made us into what we are today. So, just as like a brief background, we were founded in 1946, basically off of the grounds of a deactivated air base. And from there, we were actually the first graduate management school that focused on global business. So that was our guiding principle when we started. And if you've ever heard the saying that borders frequented by trade seldom need soldiers, that's kind of what our foundation here at Thunderbird is guided along. So from there, we became, right, the first ever higher ed institution that primarily focused on international leadership. And with that, so helping students build those business school skills, management skills, working in the political economy, learning new languages, all of that combined, right? So we've even been told we're kind of like a mini United Nations in a sense, just because of how diverse we are. And right to today, so we continue to value that as we've partnered with ASU, Arizona State University, and we continue to build those relationships and keep that at the forefront of our education.
Right. And that is amazing. I love how you mentioned a mini UN. I
hmm
know, and I may have shared this with you earlier when we chatted, but like decades ago when I was applying to business school, I know that
hmm
Thunderbird was definitely a school that I was considering at that point. I know things have changed and we'll get into that a little bit
hmm
now, a little bit in the process, but
hmm
let's talk about your undergraduate degree
Yeah.
programs. I know there are two. Can you
hmm
tell us a little bit about those two programs and maybe,
hmm
what are the features of each and how are they different from each other?
hmm Great question. Yeah, so exciting. So, back many years ago, we actually had undergrad programs. They went away with them. And when we partnered with ASU back in 2014, we brought them back, which is super exciting. So, we have two undergrad programs. We have our Bachelor's of Global Management, and then we have Bachelor's of Science in International Trade. Basically, both of these programs are going to provide those foundational business skills and coursework for our students. However, separate from, right, like a traditional business school, they're going to be getting everything focused from that global capacity and global scale. So they're looking at what's going on around the world. How can we make the world a better place by what we're learning in the classroom and implementing it from there? So with that, many of our students are interested in maybe going into like the public sector, working with governments, nonprofit organizations, and they're going to take topics kind of all over the board when it comes to leadership, management, and business as well. Big difference between the two programs. They're both going to get those foundational courses. BSIT or international trade is going to go just a little bit more in depth. So students that are maybe interested in supply chain, that's a really popular one for our international trade program, right? Trading across regions and sectors, if that's something they're interested in. It's also a STEM certified program. So if students are looking for maybe STEM OPT, getting that additional 2 years of work experience, it is approved for that as well. And it does dive a little bit more in depth with math, right? With being a STEM program. So you'll get like the calculus within that program too. So our science students love that. But yeah, and then again, just giving you kind of that foundational skill set to be successful in any leadership and business environment.
That's fantastic, right? I love how you have that STEM designation to that. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
assuming that will certainly help students when they're out into the job market. And like you
Mm-hmm.
said, it extends their OPT by 2 years now. Is that
Mm-hmm.
what that is for international
Correct.
students?
Yep.
Right.
So they'll all be eligible for the 1 year, but with our international trade, they are eligible for the additional 2.
Which is fantastic, right?
Yes.
Because many of them are leaving their homes and,
Mm-hmm.
and they want to be able to get hopefully some work experience,
Mm-hmm.
especially the international students that I'm
Mm-hmm.
working with. They want to get some experience before maybe going back to their home
Mm-hmm.
country or moving anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
For
really
sure.
great. Yeah. So that's really
Yeah.
fantastic.
We actually part of our program for both global management, international trade do require a international internship. So it provides students that opportunity and experience right out the get-go. And then a lot of them will actually like the job so much, kind of like you mentioned, that they kind of continue on after graduation, working from them. So it's definitely a good opportunity.
That is amazing. And how would you describe your student population? I think from everything that you're sharing, I can
Hmm.
already hear global mindset, right?
Hmm.
Open to learning. But what else would you say defines the population
Hmm.
at Thunderbird?
Yeah, great question. I love our student population at Thunderbird. I think our students are so amazing, so driven, and curious about the world. So, yeah, I would say big one, right, is our students and the student population are very diverse. Every student is coming from all over the world. We have students. I would say about 50% are going to be international to domestic, so in-state and out-of-state students in the United States. So right? When they're in their classes, they're getting tons of different experiences that they get to learn from and then, apply to their classes, which is really nice. They're also very dedicated in their extracurriculars, which I love. I always meet Thunderbird students and they're interested in like 20 different things, and somehow they are exceeding in all of them, which I think is awesome. So, our students really like to support each other as well in those endeavors. So many times they're in similar clubs or they start new clubs together, just again to continue making their world better, but also our world as well in the future. So, all super excited to develop their business skills, learn new languages, experience new cultures. A ton of them like to go and travel together. So, I would say that's more about kind of what our student population is, super driven, again, cultural, diverse, global mindset.
Right. I love that. And I'm sure you've understood this, but I want to make sure that our audience, I just want to underscore this that
Hmm.
usually, for many colleges and universities, having a 20 or 30% international population is already huge. But here
Hmm.
at Thunderbird, you have like a 50%
Hmm.
international population, which is tremendous. So I definitely want
Hmm.
to make sure that students and families don't miss out on that.
Hmm.
Right. So
Definitely.
yeah, and so I know we've spoken about a couple of things that you must be super proud of representing
Hmm.
Thunderbird here. But are there anything else? Is there anything else? What would you consider to be the top three strengths of the program, for instance?
Yeah, I love that question. I would say our top three strengths, right? That first one's going to be just the premier education that our students are receiving. We are top right for international trade in the world. So they're getting a premier leadership management education that really touches on so many different aspects. They're getting those foundational business skills, like we mentioned. However, they're getting everything from a global perspective, which I do think is a lot different than maybe some other traditional programs. Another big one is our student and alumni network. We have almost 50,000 alumni of Thunderbird, so it provides our students a lot of support and opportunities as one, they're going through the program, but then off into their career endeavors post graduation. It provides them really, up for success, right? Right out the get-go, because they have such a great network to be a part of. And then I would say our community and student experience at Thunderbird. We are a smaller school, so with that, you get that tight-knit community feel. However, Thunderbird's part of the largest public institution in the country. So they also get all of the resources that are available with that. So this allows students to kind of provide more opportunity to build those close-knit bonds and then support each other throughout their entire college experience.
Right. And that is great. And I think there's one more piece that I think when we had a discussion earlier, you may have mentioned. Was there something about, some of the graduate faculty also teaching undergraduate programs,
hmm
which I know is not very common,
hmm
across colleges? Do you want to say a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, all of our instructors, faculty members, they do teach at both the undergraduate and graduate level, which is great. So, our undergraduate students are getting similar experience to those of our graduate programs as well, right? They're all working professionals. So, they're in the business field, they're getting that hands-on experience that then they can provide to you in the classroom, provides opportunity maybe here are certain industries that are really popular or experiences that student can be a part of. So definitely a unique perk to our program as well.
That's great. And I know you mentioned hands-on experience.
hmm
Can we double click on that a little bit and tell us a little bit about, what does that
hmm
really look like for
hmm
students who are coming in? How would you break that down?
Yeah, love hands-on experience here at Thunderbird. Really, we do try and stray away from the traditional like exam, quiz, paper format. Of course, right, you're going to have them. We have to test you on your knowledge. But we really want to take what students are learning in the classroom and putting it to the test with real hands-on experience. So a lot of times in the classes, students are going to be working on case studies. So reading and understanding like what's going on in the world, how can whatever class that we're learning, how can we apply that foundational knowledge to whatever's going on? A big part of that too is our use of technology here at Thunderbird. We really like to maximize off that fourth industrial revolution. So, right, tying in that technology component in our coursework. So, we try to stay as up to date as we can with all of our technology. We have students working on AI, VR in the classroom, and our technology team is always trying to look in how we can implement ways for students to really get that hands-on experience. And then a big one, right? I mentioned that international internship component. So that's another great way to kind of tie in everything that they're learning. And then lastly, we do also have a basically a capstone project. So their final senior project where they actually will do a consulting project with a partnered organization. So they get to come in, the organization has a problem that they need help fixed, and then they'll apply everything they've learned over the past 4 years to help benefit the organization. So again, students leave Thunderbird and they're like, look, this is all that I've done during my 4 years, and this is what makes me, a great fit for the job. So definitely want to set our students up for success, and we do that through that experience.
Right. And that is amazing. And I was, in fact, thinking about the same thing. I mean, what a great way to equip your
hmm
students to make sure that when they go out into the job market, they have like a portfolio of things that they have done
hmm
through these hands on experiences.
Most
Right.
definitely.
So that sounds fantastic. Great. Thank you for sharing that.
Of
Um,
course.
I want us to double click a little bit about, admissions, right?
hmm
And, of course, when students are applying, they have all these different questions, especially revolving around the major, right? And I
hmm
know this is a popular question that I often get asked,
hmm
how much does the major actually um, impact the decision, right? The
hmm
the admissions decision. Would you be able to break that down for us a little bit?
hmm
Does the admissions team even look at the choice of major when making these admission decisions? And if so,
hmm
how and when does this come into play?
Yeah, great question. So how ASU and Thunderbird work, when you're submitting an application into Arizona State University, you're going to list, right, your majors that you're interested in or that you want to complete. So I think they have two different options at first on the application. Now, every admissions or academic college at Arizona State has different requirements. So for us, right, a student would come in and say, I'm interested in learning global management or international trade on their application. And from there, we would get their application. So they were interested in our programs. We don't have any sort of additional requirements outside of Arizona State's admissions guidelines. So as long as the student meets those requirements, they would be admissible into our program. We don't look, like if they had any distinction in their high school classes as far as like maybe primarily they took science classes or things like that. It's just making sure that they meet those admission requirements. And then yeah, we'd go from there as far as getting them admitted and everything like that. If a student came into ASU and was maybe, I don't know, a psychology major, right? And then they said, oh, I want to switch to Thunderbird. Same thing. They just have to meet those additional or requirements from the get-go, and they would be admissible. So pretty easy process for the students.
That is fantastic. It's nice that, such a great school, right, has so much
Hmm.
to offer for the students, and it's not going to be something that they have to struggle,
Hmm.
to get accepted. So
Hmm.
that is definitely calming. It's definitely reassuring for families as well, right?
Definitely.
Fantastic. And how about test scores? Do they play a role in the admissions process?
Yeah, so test scores are not required for students and admission into ASU or Thunderbird, so can wipe the sweat off our forehead there, right? Um, Great thing about test scores, they're optional. They're only used to benefit the student. So maybe a student is missing some of those aptitude or admission requirements, they can take the SAT or ACT in lieu of those. So for example, we require a 3.0 for admission. If they didn't meet that, that's okay. They could take the SAT or ACT exam. And then those scores, it would be an 1120 for the SAT, and then ACT is 24 for non-resident student. So that's just kind of how it works. And then again with scholarship, if they're looking to apply for a merit or any like additional scholarships, those can always be a helpful tool for that as well.
Fantastic. And I know you touched upon this, a few moments ago, but can you tell us a
Mhm.
little bit more about, what happens in this space when a student is filling out the common application, has uploaded
Mhm.
everything and hit
Mhm.
submit? What's the
Yeah.
next step? What really happens after that?
Yeah, great question. So once a student has submitted their application, they've paid the fee, they've inputted all their info, it's going to go through an evaluation process with ASU specifically. So this is all on Arizona State's. We don't really control the application process, but basically from there, they're going to be required to complete a set list of tasks in order to complete their application fully. So submitting their official transcript so that way we can do their official evaluation. And then working right if it's an international student on those next steps for like I-20, so that way we can get you your visa. That's really good to start on right away. And yeah, really, once you submit that application, the only next step until admission is sending in those official transcripts. From there, they would complete those priority tasks. So making sure you get those I-20 documents submitted, English proficiency if they're an international student where English is not the first language. They'll complete an orientation, advising session to get scheduled for classes, and then, of course, housing. We help them all through those next steps, though. I know it can be maybe intimidating for families, and there's just so much and, moving pieces. But that's my role. With ASU, it's really great. You get an admissions coordinator from admissions directly, and then you get your academic college's admissions coordinator, which is me for Thunderbird. So you get double the help, and we just want to make sure it's as easy of a process as possible.
That's great. So lots of support, lots of
Hmm.
hand holding, especially for these students who come
Hmm.
in, right, from different countries. So that is really remarkable.
Hmm.
And can you touch a little bit upon what kind of additional support do they get, right?
Mm-hmm.
What resources do they, excuse me, have access to when they're at
Mm-hmm.
Thunderbird?
Yeah, I love that question. Again, want to make sure that our students feel supported and they're reaching those goals that they have. So basically, we partner with our International Student and Scholar Center, known as the ISSC at ASU, just to make sure that students do have all those resources, right, to be successful. So they help students anywhere from that get-go of the application all the way through their time with ASU. So they also provide campus involvement opportunities, academic support such as tutoring, student services, and also career development. They'll also receive an academic advisor. So we have one specific to Thunderbird that gets to help our students, and she's there through their entire career to make sure that they're reaching the goals that they have. At Thunderbird specifically as well, we do have a career management center, and this is where our students get guidance for professional development, covering a wide array of topics, right? Like interviewing practice, resume building, and we have that specific to our students, which is great. And then lastly, we have peer leaders and campus ambassadors that are current students of Thunderbird that support our prospective and incoming students through that same journey to campus and onward through their program.
Right. Okay, great. Let's switch gears a little bit. For
Mm-hmm.
students who have not visited Phoenix, can you tell students and families what's that like?
Mm-hmm.
What's
Yeah,
Phoenix
great,
like?
great question. I'm sure I feel like there's always buzzwords about Phoenix, right? It's known as the Valley of the Sun. So it is a lot of sunshine here. We have way more sun to rainy days, which is amazing. With that, right, lots of room for outdoor activities, hiking local mountain ranges, maybe going on bike rides or walks around the desert. With that, right, it can get a little bit hot. So always like to preface that, but we definitely make do with it. Swimming is super popular in the summer, going to the lake, and then we're big foodies in Phoenix. So when it's hot, we go in, we eat good food, and being in downtown Phoenix with Thunderbird, there's so many unique restaurants, activities right around the area, so students don't even have to go far. It's right in their back door of all those different things that they can experience. And yeah, ranging from concerts to, again, getting some food, maybe going to a show. There's something for everyone in Phoenix, which is great.
It sounds amazing, especially coming in from rainy Seattle. Just all
Hmm.
the sunshine that you mentioned, you had me at sunshine, right? So
Yeah, we love it. It's actually been a little bit rainy the past few days. So we're like, what is going on? But we always need the rain too to help our plants and everything stay nice and green.
balance everything out, right? It's all about
Exactly.
balance.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. All right. Any last words of advice for students interested in applying to Thunderbird?
Yeah, I would just say yes. I know that's really simple, but college and coming to Thunderbird, it's all about those new experiences, right? And that's definitely something that our students love to partake in, is just getting all the experiences that you can while you're in college, because you never know what's going to present to yourself in those experiences, and it might be a new passion or new opportunity that kind of sets that motion forward for your future. So that would be my biggest piece of advice, is just say yes, and you never know what might come your way.
I love that. And I
Mm,
couldn't have said that any better. That is amazing. Thank you, Taylor, for all your time.
of
This has been
course.
incredible. I'm sure students and families have learned a ton with everything that you shared. So appreciate your time. Thank
Of
you
course.
again.
Thank you so much for having me.
Fantastic. All right, great. I think we're set.
Awesome.
Yes.
Perfect.
How did we do on time? Oh, not bad.
Oh, yeah,
We're in
right
a good
around
place.
30.
Awesome. Okay, just want to make
Perfect.
sure. Absolutely. So I will go ahead and send this over to you.
Okay.
And then, once you say it's all okay, only then will I share it and upload it on YouTube and share it.
Okay.
Right. So just
Perfect.
want to make sure. And let me actually stop recording for a second.
Do you also like post
Hmm.
this to LinkedIn or social media where we can also share the information as well?
We should be able to. So this is a baby project. I
Mm-hmm.
haven't had really a chance. So I have, been interviewing, a
Mm-hmm.
couple of select schools. I haven't had a chance. So all I'm doing is just posting it on YouTube
Mm-hmm.
for now. I haven't
Okay.
had a chance to do much more, but I
No
want to
worries.
do all of
Mm-hmm.
that. It's just that, you know, it's
Yeah,
just
of
with the
course.
limited time, but I
Mm-hmm.
definitely want to get there. So for
Okay.
now, it's just going to be on the channel, but I do hope in the future that I
Mm-hmm.
can post it across social media as well. So I just want to
Perfect.
make sure that I have your go ahead with,
Mm-hmm.
with this before I do anything. I
Yeah,
just,
yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Okay. Are you sure you want to stop recording? Yeah.